Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Frost Bites with Kelly Frost. I am your host, Kelly Frost. Today we have with us Rachel Maga. We just had a phenomenal interview with her, and we also had the wonderful Linda Long with us too. Rachel talks about 10-4 Social and how she just sold her business after so many years. It was like another child to her, but she is working with Casey, and she is having the time of her life, as she explains. And she just started up with Inspired Women, which is also Kim Gable and Deborah. So stick around, and you can learn more about Rachel Maga. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Frost Bites with Kelly Frost. I am Kelly Frost, your host, and we are here today with Rachel Maga, and we are also here with our co-host, Linda Long. We're going to jump right in with Rachel. Thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you, ladies, for having me.
Of course, of course. Welcome. Now, we just had Casey here earlier today, and you were kind of like his handler.
One way to describe it, for sure.
I like that.
Oftentimes I've seen that where we have, the gentleman who's here, and then, there's always a female kind of guiding his way. Would you say that's kind of what you were doing today?
It's funny you ask. I think short answer is, though I think it's more the opposite. I think that there's a lot of me really learning and as from the guidance. Still very, very new in this position. So figuring it out day by day, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
I think a lot of people know you from your past life of owning your own organization, which was 10-4 Social.
Correct.
So tell us what you're doing now for everybody who doesn't know that you are no longer there.
Yeah, for sure. So I ran 10-4 Social for 9 years. I owned it, which is wild to think through. I was 25 when I started the agency. So
Crazy.
Really I've never worked for anybody. I worked at Dick's Sporting Goods for 6 months and maybe realized that corporate America wasn't the best fit for me.
What did you do at Dick's?
I was in their media and marketing department, so I was doing a lot of the radio buys, learning more of which magazines we're in, why we are. It was very entry level, so I got to experience a little bit, but for me, it was more of just because I was so entry level, I wanted to get to the top, right, and say, but why? Like, ask the questions instead of just doing the task, really trying to understand why we're doing it that way. And that's not exactly always needed in an entry-level position. So,
It was above your pay grade.
right, it was.
Yeah, your bosses don't appreciate that
Right,
always.
but I was still knocking, and I was still asking. So
we did that for 6 months, and then you're like,
6 months.
you know what? Maybe I should have my
I
own
had,
company.
I had my first little boy, and tried the whole stay-at-home mom thing. Lasted that for like 3 months. And I was like, yeah, I love you. You are adorable. But I am a very social person. So my husband would come home from work, and I'm like, who did you talk to? What did you eat? I need to know literally everything outside of these four walls right now.
Right.
So I tried that, and maybe realized maybe that's also not the best fit for me. And then just really kind of came to my husband and said, what are we gonna do? What is where am I gonna go? What are we really looking at? And he was like, what do you want to do? And I was like, well, I love social. I just want to go and help and work with other people and, helping to build out their presence and their story. He's like, so go do that. He's like, instead of trying to go find it, go create it. I was like, you are insane, right? I am 25. I have zero. I've never worked for an agency, right? So, when we were going through, all the growth phases, I've never had that fallback of, oh, well, this is how you do it.
Right.
Because I was literally learning as I was in it. So, we had wonderful success. We worked with some really amazing brands and clients that will forever be lifelong friends, which I so appreciate. And it was just, a lot of time, right? A lot of time, a lot of energy, and a lot of just stress, right? So, about probably 4 years ago, things you shouldn't do when owning your own business is making sure that you are taking care of yourself and not, skipping meals and not sleeping well. And I was doing all of those things. And, I lost a good bit of weight. And I was in the shower. And I told my husband, I'm like, I feel weird. And he's like, you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. And about a minute later, I came through the shower curtain and was unconscious and completely shattered my entire face. Good plastic surgery is a great thing, and put my nose back together, and went to the hospital, and they said, you cannot keep at the speed that you are. You have to take care of your body.
Goodness.
So it was a huge wake-up call for me of saying, clearly, physically, just looking in the mirror, right? And I didn't really slow down too much. I remember I did an interview with a girl that actually worked for me for a very long time, and I literally had the tape up here and in her interview, and I was like, I don't normally look like this. I'm just going through some things right now. And so it was what I needed from hey, you really need to focus in on yourself, because you can't help anybody else if you're not 100%.
Right.
Yeah.
So, really kind of taking a step back from that point and, really evaluating the next few years of what am I looking for? I'm still young enough that I can still have a whole nother career, and started talking with my business coach, Chris Flickinger, who is truly one of the most wonderful humans, and told him, here's what I'm really looking for. What are your thoughts? And he was like, explore it, right? Get in the rooms, have the conversations, see, really, do you want to sell? And sat down with Pipitone and Scott, and I really just talked a little bit about, what did I want? What would I look to sell? And even just saying the word, I was like, that's crazy. I don't know how that would even work. And Scott was just so patient and open, and really he was so excited to bring the entire team into his home, that is, really, that's what I was looking for, right? I am a very much relationship first mindset. So knowing that it wasn't just about Rachel, it was about the entire team and what they can do for all my entire staff individually was so important. So really trying to, understand how am I going to transition from owning to being an employee within my own agency. That was a wild experience. We can talk more about that later. But I did know that, at the core of what I was looking for, it is really how to scale a company, right? Literally from day one at Dick's, I was trying to knock down the door of saying how and why are you doing this? And I really knew that that's what I'm looking at in this next career time frame, is how do you go from where you're at to keep striving every single day and keep growing. So after having conversations with Casey about that and seeing all the success that City Life Residential has already had in knowing that they're just getting started it is exactly what I was looking for. So officially, I am Casey's executive assistant, and that's exactly what I'm doing right now, is just learning, literally absorbing every single day something new, something that, something so simple. And I'm always just like, that's really simple. Really wish I would have had that about 7 years ago.
Should have known that before.
So that's where I'm at right now.
I mean, experience is so crucial.
Truly.
And when you go into a business owning it, especially, and not having any behind you, I mean, that had to have been difficult.
So difficult, right? And just I think the biggest thing that I learned from truly having that conversation with my husband and moving forward was just surround yourself with good people. It's really not that difficult, right? Be a good person. Literally just do what you say you're going to do. Show up and do your best. And everybody's really understanding from that point on, right? So that was really important, and something I obviously had to learn. And through our very first clients, I was like, man, like we were working with some wonderful brands and people, and I was just, it is the imposter syndrome, right? Like I am the last person that should be sitting here. Like, are they going to find out? Do they know how unqualified I am? All of those things, and it's truly pretty wild for sure.
Did your age, you think, have a lot to do with the imposter syndrome?
I would say, so our first office was here in South Point, literally like 4 doors down, which is full circle moment for me. I would say in this area for sure, right? You're in the middle of corporate America buildings, right? Pre-COVID, right. You were, right? Oh, so, really, I think at first, certainly, I think I quickly got over that though, because I've sat on publicly traded boards. I've been in like the biggest rooms, and you just really quickly learn, like, not that they're not that impressive, but they're just people. Like they're they're there to listen. Like, so I think I thankfully lost a lot of that because I was just like, yeah, that makes sense, right? You're just doing what everybody else is doing, just in a different way. So, so thankfully, I think I lost a little bit of it, but for certain at first, yeah, age, being a female in business, right, and trying to navigate that path and dealing with all kinds of experiences, good and bad along the way, definitely plays a part for sure.
Yeah, I've heard that so many times from a lot of different females that are part of our networking group or organizations that we're part of, that they're so timid, especially when they walk into a room where there's gentlemen in suits that are older than them, that they don't feel like they have the respect, or that they feel they can't contribute to what's being said in the room or done. Right. And then they tend to kind of shrink back and just listen. Yeah. They don't ever speak, even if they feel as if, oh, I could solve that problem, or I can contribute to this conversation, or, oh, I know what they're talking about and I could help. Absolutely. But they don't. And they just listen and just don't want to be part of the conversation because they're afraid to be ridiculed.
For sure.
How do you think that girls should, or females should?
I think, recently I was on the board for Barbecue Holdings. They owned Famous Dave's Barbecue and, massive franchise groups. And I was sitting on the board, and I was the only female, and definitely the only one under the age of 45. That's being gracious. And I just didn't talk. I would fly to Minneapolis. I would be there. Before the meetings, I would be talking with every single person in the room. When the meeting started, I didn't say a word, and like my fingers just wouldn't stop. I made books of notes, and then to find out I wasn't allowed to, because that's the whole thing. You're not supposed to actually put that on a computer when you're in learning. But there were so many times that I would write out exactly like what they're talking about, and I would literally write where I would recommend or what I would do, and I would just keep it on my computer. Because I was like, I cannot. And then at the very end, they sold the company, which is so exciting. So I got to experience all of that, of how you sell a publicly traded company, which is a lot. And at the very end, the CEO shared with me, he's like, you brought so much value. I just wish you could have said a little bit more. And I'm like, that's annoying. Like, I'm the reason that I did, And it's just like, you aren't in that room if you don't want to have a seat, right? You have the seat, own the seat, contribute to show that, to share. It's not even to show. It's not the ego. It's just they've literally asked you for a reason. And that was a huge wake-up call for me, that I was just like, man, you're absolutely right. And I am the only one that held back. For what reason?
We were just talking about that. You stood in your own way.
Yes, absolutely.
It's very difficult sometimes to get into those rooms, get a seat at that table.
For sure. And I'm a big Gallup Strengths girl, and my number 2 strength is woo, of winning others over. So I have this, like, when I'm in the room, I feel like I need you to be my best friend. Like, that is truly part of me. And then it's when you do have that imposter syndrome and you almost like you feel so defeated because that's what fuels you. And then you're not doing that. And it's like, man, I'm really torn here. Like, so, but yes, for certain.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I get it. I hear it all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the way to solve it is truly just eliminating the fear, right? It's just doing something to reinforce where you're at and why you're there and keep moving. But easier said than done.
I was just going to say, it's very easy to say, but just eliminate that fear. Right? We're just going to take that off and put it away.
Yeah, easier said than done.
But when you do, then you go home and you're like, oh my gosh, if I couldn't imagine that I wouldn't have spoken up, right? That opened the door so far. Like I would have been so upset if I didn't. So it's a lot of those things for certain.
The feeling that you have though, once you do actually get over some of those fears, is amazing.
Truly.
And it's almost as if it's a growing up moment when you get over a fear and you're just, you know what? I don't care. I'm going to get through it. I'm going to do whatever I have to do.
Sure.
And you do. You just kind of like suck it up.
Yep.
You know, and like we say, just tits up.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Yep. You just do. You just power through whatever it is that you're afraid of or intimidated by or whatever it is that you have to do. And half the time, it's not as scary as you thought it was.
Absolutely not. Right.
Oh, most of the time it's not as scary as you thought it was.
What was I afraid of? Why was I trying to get out of this? Or why was, and it does. But that is, I think, something that a lot of entrepreneurs, of course, have to deal with.
Yeah.
But then it's also, once you do get through that, share that knowledge. Like, hey, you know what? I was afraid of this too.
Right.
I did it. Yeah. This is what happened.
Yep.
That's, I think, something that females need to do more of is explaining to other females what they're going through.
I think that's a huge part. And I also think that when you're in it, you think you're the only person in the world that's going through this, right? Like there were times where we really were not going to make payroll and I was stressed to the max. And I was like, nobody could relate. What a failure. Like how does somebody not make payroll? Like, the date's coming. And now the more I talk, people are like, yeah, we go through that a couple times a year. I mean, you have your highs, you have your lows, you have that's so normal because you're moving things around, you're hiring, you're you know what I mean? And but when you're going through it, you're like, oh wow, like really, how I don't even want to tell anybody. Like I'm embarrassed by that. And then again, once you find out, you're like, oh, if I would just share what I'm going through, there's a laundry list of people that would be like, "Oh, girl, you're fine." Like here's 8 different ways I've gone over that, right? So it's but you don't. You keep it in.
Oh yeah, because we always want to put our best face forward, and we always want people to think that we're doing well.
Right.
And when you admit things like that, you admit that, oops, maybe it's not going as perfect as you thought it was.
For sure.
And so that's a great example, though. I remember several years ago when I was doing a different podcast and I was producing it, this extremely charismatic gentleman who is very well off in the business world. We were interviewing him, and he had literally said, last year, constantly, I thought, I'm not making payroll. All the time he said it happened. I mean, he sort of had like a financial company and a PR company. And when he started saying that, I'm behind the camera, and I'm like, thank God I'm behind the camera. He can't see my face going, what?
Right.
I was, mystified by the fact that he was saying that. Yeah. One, that it was happening. Right. Two, that he was saying it out loud.
Yes.
And it was being recorded. But then I thought to myself, God, this is brilliant. Right. For him to admit something like that. Do you know how many people he's probably impacting and helping by admitting that?
Yeah. Absolutely.
And then I already liked him, but after that I was like, really, I had so much more respect for him for saying that, because it really was just so authentic, and it just made him, in my eyes, just a better person just for being so real.
I absolutely agree.
So, that's my take on that. So, so that's great, though. So I'm glad that you made the decision that you did to sell, because it sounds like it was the best one for you. It was. And even your employees, because they're all getting to do
it. And when I shared with them that I was going to be leaving, it was a very emotional moment. And I know that they would all argue with me on this till the day that I die, but I truly, truly, in my heart of hearts, believe that with me leaving, they are going to be able to continue to grow in a completely another way, because they have been a part of my leadership and everything they do. To be able to see that other side is so valuable. And we talk about, when you start a new job or if you're fired, that is truly opening up more doors than you can ever realize. But in the moment, it stings. But you're going to get to experience completely new leadership styles. And for that reason, I'm so excited for them, because I know that not only are they just in good hands, that agency is really looking to grow for many years to come, right? And they're just getting started, and they've been around for business for many years. So I'm excited to. And I was texting Scott just the other day, and I was like, still cheering just a little bit further away for y'all, right? So it's just I love seeing it. I love seeing where they're headed with it all.
So now you're going to be working with Casey. How long has that been going on?
For a very short time. So we're just getting started. Yeah.
So you're still in the honeymoon period with him.
It was really, I'm very, very thankful that he was a client first, right? So I worked with him years ago on, from city life, getting to know his personal brand and really helping to better understand that. So we went through that phase, and that was really where we had the bumps in the road at first, right? And then once we, ended the client relationship, he was my number one mentor. I mean, when I got on the board, I was like, Casey, I literally don't know how to read a P&L. Like, I don't. I know things to look at, but when you're on a board like this, I need to know everything. So he was like, for sure, come down and walked me through everything. So he's just always been that mentor. He's always been, I've just watched where they've been able to grow. And I just get so excited for them that now that we're in this side of it, it's just so natural, right? So we're kind of past all those stages, I think, because it's been 4 years in the works.
Wow. I mean, it sounds like it's exciting what he's doing.
It's so exciting. Truly so exciting. And it's just so fulfilling. That's the biggest part, right? It's just every single employee there is truly in it to win it for themselves and for their team. And that is extremely hard to find. It really is. So that part's really fun for sure.
Yeah. Environment makes a huge difference in your day-to-day.
Oh, absolutely.
When you walk into a room and there's a buzz, and everyone's excited and everyone's all for one. What a difference that makes than walking into a building in a room with cubicles and people that are
truly
miserable and don't want to be there. And you can almost feel the heaviness in the room.
Culture was always number one to me when I owned the agency, right? It was just, how in the world can I make this the best experience? I said from the very beginning, whether it was social media, we opened some selfie studios, we did a lot. It was,
I remember.
They were very fun. It was, I just want people to love where they work. That is it. It could have been any industry out there. And I just wanted people to truly love it. And now, in the short amount of time I've been, with Casey, I've learned that there's steps that I missed along the way. Did everybody enjoy it? Absolutely. But my strength is not strategy. My strength is not, here's where we're at today, here's where we're going, and here's where we're going to end up. I am very much of we're going to go here, and it's going to be awesome. So I just, again, in a leadership position, I did not excel at helping the team to know how we're going to get there. It was just faith in the process, and that was where I'm much better fit now, I believe, of helping to support and grow so much than try to do it myself. So I'm very, very happy for that.
Wow. I think that's a skill, realizing where your strengths are, where your weakness is, but embracing your weaknesses. So that I think that turns them into strengths.
Truly. I think that's a lot of my personality type as well, though, because I know when I started with the Gallup Strengths coach and we were going down through my strengths, I'm like, but what are the weaknesses? What are the shadows of those? And she was like, nobody gets excited about that part. I'm like, I love that part. Like I want to know where I can focus and where I can just be like, nope, not my thing. Yeah. Like,
what's my suck?
Right. So it's so I'm always I love that side just as much.
Yeah. It's a lot of people can't pinpoint their weaknesses or their strengths. I mean, I've heard people say, well, my strength is, fill in the blank. And I'm looking at them going, really? I don't see that. So, I mean, I don't know if they're just fooling themselves or if they wish that were their strength but I think it's a lot of people can't do that. Can't really figure those things out. Even though it's you, it's almost too personal.
For sure. And there's a book called Traction, and when I was reading it, I had our entire team read it together. It was literally book club. And we were in the section of creating our core values, and we loved it. It was so fun, right? And it's so funny you say that, because one of mine, I was like, strategy. Like, we're strategic. They all look at me and I'm like, we are. They're like, are we? I'm like, yeah. They were like, are we? And it's exactly that. I think we should be, but maybe you're right. Maybe we're really not at all. And I'm totally missing the mark, but I'm telling myself, there's some strategy here, right? So you need that whole picture and the whole 360 view of not just how you feel about it, but letting other people to share their views, because that's going to tell you more than you can ever try to write down yourself.
Yeah. Absolutely. And you need to have that integrator too.
For sure. Absolutely.
To be putting all the pieces together and helping that strategy. I mean, you can have all the strategy you want too, but if you don't have someone to put it into place.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, you could have balloons, but if you don't have any air,
right.
Just have rubber.
Truly.
I mean,
it's true.
Yeah. So Casey was saying before about talking about nonprofits, and that might be down the road.
Yeah.
However, you're already walking down that road.
Yes. So very early on, when we just started the agency, we were doing a good bit of event planning. I love the event side and helping nonprofits to raise funds for them to be able to go and do all the good in the community that they're doing. So that has been from the very beginning such a big part. And when I resigned from Pipitone and I really knew what the next phase was going to look like, I told myself whatever it was, it had to be nonprofit focused. I have to. That is a huge part of me that I need that to be fulfilled, or I know that I'm going to always keep looking for that. So called my very dear friend Kim Gable, like I do for all my life decisions, and said, can we go to lunch? I'm thinking about something, maybe starting an Inspired Women group. And she, of course, her and Deborah were so excited. Deborah said something really special to me. It was right before Christmas. She goes, "You're my real life Christmas present." I was like, "Aww. You're silly." I'm like, "I can't do anything. Like, that's just," and she's like, "No." She's like, "Exactly." She's like, I want to keep growing. And she's like, if I could customer avatar exactly who it is, it's you, because it's what I want to do. And it's, it's bringing my network, but introducing it to a whole nother group, right? So it's really exciting. So officially I have launched my Inspired Women Downtown chapter, which is so exciting. And we had 26 women come just to support other women-led initiatives, which for your very first one, I am not kidding. I'm sure many people who are watching this got a text from me saying, "Please, dear God, tell me you're coming." And it was like 35 minutes prior to. Like, it's just that stress of like imposter syndrome of, is anybody coming? Right. Does anybody want to come? Like, what am I doing? And then, of course, people start coming. I'm like, oh, we got this. Like, there's, and it's so we had a great turnout. It is my mission. I will make sure we have 50 women for the next one because I really want to make sure we hit that $5,000 check mark for them. So for those who don't know, Inspired Women is truly a collaborative networking from a nonprofit perspective. So basically what I'm trying to say is it's all about giving back, right? Mm-hmm. So yes, you get so much networking, you get connected, but it's not what it's about. It's really how as a women leader or someone who just wants to help to give back, how can we go find those nonprofits and how can we learn about them? How can we become educated in just that 1 hour of the meeting? Mm-hmm. And how can we give back to them and then still be thinking about them till the next quarter of I could connect them with this person or this person or this person. It's just listening and then helping. So yes, you get so much networking, you get great connections, but it's really the fulfilling side at the end of 50 of us got in a room. We wrote a check for $5,000 to a nonprofit. That nonprofit comes back the next quarter and says, here's everything I was able to do with your $100, right? So $100, you can write a check and you have, you know what I mean? It can only go so far. But when collectively you're all coming together, that's when true magic happens. And those are big amounts for local nonprofits. They really, really are. And Inspired Women really is just as much focused on the local as from an international perspective. So it's not every quarter we switch from whether it's local or if the money goes to an international group. And so also just to know that it's not just the very, very, very fortunate individuals that we have within our area. You're now giving to individuals who our literal worst day is some of their best days, right? And it's heart-wrenching, it's painful, but to see them still be so positive and know that you're really helping is truly amazing.
I could not agree more. I've been part of Inspired Women for, 4 years?
That's what I was going to say.
About 4 years, yeah.
That's what I've been, about 4 years. Yeah, I can remember the first meeting I went to. I've gone to tons of women's and groups and been networking all over, and I went there expecting it to kind of be the same.
Of course.
I literally cried because I do cry. I was so touched by the stories. I was like, oh my gosh.
Truly, yeah.
I mean, so I think it's absolutely wonderful that you've started another chapter to maybe bring in some women that didn't know anything about it, never heard of it, or maybe there wasn't a good location for them to go. I hope, I'm sure, I don't hope, I know that you will do wonderful at this and make it a huge success. I mean, just having, 26 women your very first meeting, that's incredible. Truly. That is amazing. Yeah. So I'm sure that you will absolutely grow it by leaps and bounds, and it will take off and do wonderful things.
Thank you.
Well, it's great the location that you have. I think you've been putting part of it longer than that, but it was just the north is all they had whenever I first started. So we had to drive over bridges and tunnels, which I don't mind, but some people do. I don't. They don't scare me. Right. So we would go to the north, and it was the same thing. I mean, we'd listen and hear about all of these different nonprofits and what they were doing, but when I had first started kind of in this industry, I didn't know about so many of these nonprofits.
Oh gosh. No.
And now I think about them literally daily.
Oh my gosh.
Like 412 Thrive. I'm not kidding you. I will be thinking about something totally different and I'm like, oh, I can connect with this person or I can, and then you just like that, even if, it might still be the check is so valuable, but those connections, that network to be able to help is just truly, truly game changing for them too.
Now that you mentioned them, so I have Peel, which is Pittsburgh's Elevated and Emerging Leaders. So we started that a couple years ago. They were our very first, of last year of our nonprofits that we supported. So every quarter, we also have a nonprofit. So nice. We worked with them there, but we also took everybody from Peel to Inspired Women. So whenever they were going to, talk about their nonprofit.
Right.
It was just, they call us the Peel Posse, but we all went and supported them there. Then they got nominated. Of course, we all voted for them. So it's kind of like, supporting.
That's it.
Yep. So they went to the second one. They've been nominated twice.
Aww.
spoke twice, got the check twice.
Yep.
But it's the same thing. And all these ladies, they all support each other. Yeah. But it is, everyone's going hand in hand. There's nothing that's ever negative about any of this, which I think is my favorite part of it. Yeah. There's never any kind of backstabbing, catty, nothing like that ever.
And we really are just a pass-through, right? So the $100 that you're donating, the entire amount goes directly to the nonprofit. Right. Inspired Women we don't have a fund that we're trying to pull. We don't take percentage. We don't take processing, literally zero. And instead, we just surround ourselves with who are 5 or 10 amazing companies that want to get behind our mission. And that's where we help with a funding of getting beautiful posters like this made, right? Or just, having a website, making sure all the things, you still have overhead, right? But we, as Inspired Women, from a leadership perspective, don't touch any of that money, which again is truly unheard of. I had a lady come to me after our meeting and she goes, $100, I kind of feel like it should be more than that. She goes, I just got so much out of this from a connections perspective, from a feel good. She's like, I almost feel like it should be more. And I was like, well, thank you. Please tell your friends. But
you can donate more if you'd like.
Exactly. But like you're not used to that, right? So it's pretty neat to be able to see that side for sure.
At the last meeting I went to, one of the nonprofits didn't get chosen. And this woman came up, and I know this woman pretty well, and I saw her come up and she was talking to the woman from the nonprofit, and she just said, hey, I listened to everything you just said. I really believe in your mission. Although you didn't win, I want to make sure that you walk out of here feeling as if
I have chills.
You did win something. And she slid her a check. And I'm sitting there the whole time going, don't look, don't look, don't look, don't look, don't look. And, she just said, she asked her a couple questions about the nonprofit, and she just said, thank you so much. And she was one of our charities that we were already supporting. Yeah. And it was not just giving her the money. She genuinely wanted to know more about it.
Yeah.
And how else she could help her afterwards. Right. But for her to just out of nothing, just sliding her a check, just saying, I want you to walk out of here feeling like, you did well. And it was her very first time being to one of those.
That's very sweet.
But I mean, I'll tell you what, I tracked her down at the end of the meeting as she's walking in her car. I'm like, I love you. I said, really? I said, that the goodness that just came from this woman. I was like, you didn't have to do that.
Nope.
And I'm like, and thank you for letting me witness it. Because that is like,
truly.
The human connection that you don't get to see all the time, and just the genuine love.
Even my husband and kids, when I come home, they're like, who won? Tell me. Who would you have to present, right? Like, everybody's excited about it. How much did you raise?
I know. My husband says the same thing.
It's so neat.
How much did they give away this time?
Exactly.
Now, she brought her son to one of them.
I did.
They had
did you?
So
my gosh.
My 10-year-old has his own company, a full LLC. It's called Maga Made. He has a commercial laser cutter. So it's 1,800 pounds. It's 8 feet by 5 feet by 5 feet. It's a full piece of commercial equipment in our home. But he designs everything. He designs it on the computer, and then he sends it over to the machine, and me and my husband help with that side, and painting from time to time, but he still does a lot of the painting. So we always we put a little note in it to say, one, we appreciate that you're supporting a young entrepreneur. He calls himself a kidpreneur. And that it might not be absolutely perfect, but there's a lot of love that goes in every piece. So he has a little note that he puts in there. But for him, he got to come and he presented himself. He did a full speech because we were a vendor, so he got a couple extra minutes. Right before he had to present, he went into the bathroom, and I just stood outside, and I could hear him. He was practicing in the mirror, and I was like, oh, my child. And he got so much business from it. He got really a lot of different real estate agents will work with him for their closing gifts. But his favorite thing to make is he does cutting boards with handwritten recipes. So if you have a recipe from your mom, all you have to do is just take a picture of it, You send it to Bryce, and he takes the exact handwriting and engraves it into a cutting board. He does some like jewelry. So if you have like a card from your, grandma that says "Love Grandma," you can get it engraved into a necklace. So he does a lot of very, very sentimental, wonderful gifts for sure. So yes, it keeps us very busy in our house.
Yeah,
it was the cutest thing. I mean, he speaks so well. You had to have been so proud. I think people were crying over
literally
that.
just
that
yes, yes.
Geez. I mean, he stood there. I mean, he did
so good.
Eloquent,
so good. His little suit.
He was in his, it was, oh my gosh. That you would have been,
It's truly amazing to see, though, as a mom, is just, I work with so many individuals that to stand up in front of a strong group of women and be able to talk like that, it's not for everybody. No. And if I can help any of my boys or their friends, like just get that little bit of self-esteem early on, I'm such a believer, and that goes so far. I think a lot of that fear comes from never doing it, and then here you go, right? And that's so we're really trying to kind of help him to get comfortable, and social media changes the game too, right? He goes live with his new products, and he's on Instagram and TikTok and does all of it.
Where do you think he gets that from?
I have no idea.
Not a clue.
My husband's a police officer, maybe him.
When you look in the mirror, do you see that? Do you understand that all that's from you?
You know what? I think I would love to say sure, but I think that so much of it is just seeing him go through it and how excited he gets about it. I think he was just born with it. I really do. I think that that's hard. That's hard to get to that point, and he is such in a natural state that I'll take a little bit of credit, but he gets all of it.
You should take a lot of credit. Really. Yeah, you're being a little modest. I mean, really, that's...
Well, he's watched you and seen what you've done.
Right.
And even though maybe you didn't actually say anything to him,
right.
He's seen it.
It's a lot of, and even like on like late night meetings, we all have them, right? I'm a big podcast girl. Like I listen to all the podcasts in the car. I can't even tell you the last song that I listened to unless the boys like were in the car and asked. I absorb so much of that, right? And he's starting to, like, he'll ask if he can sit in or if he can listen, and then like there's times where I get off of a Zoom call and he's like, why didn't you say this or that? Or why, like, what about this? And I'm just like, you are 10. And like, if somebody has like a Zoom problem, you can literally see him like crawling in to be like, I can help. He's such a little IT guy for sure.
My gosh.
Yes.
Does he know what he wants to be when he grows up?
He just says he wants to own his own business, which who knows which direction that'll go. I did go back I'm currently getting my MBA, and I want to teach. That has been my 10-year plan for a long time, is to teach at a college level, because I do a lot of guest lectures right now, and I really, really want to do that. So Bryce knows that part of that plan is, the boys will go to college one day, and college is expensive, and if you're teaching, it's not as expensive, right? And Bryce is always like, I love that you're doing that, but I might just skip that. I was like, you know what? Honestly, at that point, it might actually happen, right? Like we have no idea where that world's going. Right. But it's funny that he already is considering all of those things.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
Very, very mature young man.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You have to have him as a guest.
I would be happy to have him.
Oh, that would be fun.
Yes. You would have a lot of fun with that. He's way better than I am.
That would be fantastic.
Right?
Yeah, so much fun.
That would be.
Well, thank you for coming on the show today.
Of course.
Yeah. We're definitely going to have you back. We're going to have all of you ladies.
We're so excited.
Inspired. Yeah.
Very, very excited. It'll be wonderful.
Yes, for sure. Well, we'd like to, end all of our podcasts with a little frostbite question. And we did not give it to you early, even though you wanted it. Yeah.
Yeah, you tried, but no, not happening.
I always let her do them, so she picked it out for you. So if you don't like it, it's her fault.
Okay. So my question for you is, before you go, could you leave us with one little frostbite? That would be, define the moment when you realized the potential of your ideas and decided it was time for you to take that leap.
That's a good one.
It's a very good one.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's a really simple answer for me. It's just the moment when you realize you really want it, to just take an action and go and do it, right? So I knew I wasn't going to be in corporate America. I knew I wasn't going to be a stay-at-home mom. I knew all of these things, but I knew what I could love maybe to do. And just starting day one and not looking back is everything. Like I mentioned, I get to do a lot of guest lectures, right? I get to go to Duquesne all the time and talk with different students. And that is the biggest question every single time I'm asked is, how do you start? I'm like, you literally just start. And they're like, I don't understand. I was like, I didn't either at the time.
No.
But it is just, we are very fortunate that it is 2024 and you can learn so much online and you can figure out such a good piece of what to do. And it is truly just taking action and doing it. And there's no other way to explain it. And if I wouldn't have, I would have never ever have started an agency. It still sounds wild to me. The fact that I started and sold, and it doesn't even seem like a real life, right? But if I would have just kind of kept on and living somebody else's dream, then I would have never have, had the connections that I have today. And that's everything. So it's certainly just get started.
Thank you.
Good answer. Nice. All right, well, that has been our next episode of Frostbites with the lovely Rachel Maga. Thank you so much for being here today, and we will see you guys on the next episode. Thanks for watching.